Welcome back to part 3 of flipping the spindles. As you can see here, I've actually popped the spindle into its position. Let's jump in underneath here. And I have the camera facing the right way, so no more letterboxing video crap. I didn't know that that's what happened when you video that way. So sorry about that, folks. Anyway, here's the spindle mounted in its position. You can see your, there's your beam under there, and you can see it in position, and you can have a look up the top there, that our little clearance that we've made when we flipped them, so that's all good. Everything rotates nicely. I'll just go over the brake line because I have actually flipped the position of that. So what happens, actually we'll go on the front here. When you look at the brakes from the front, they're actually got the little master cylinders on each side, and what happens on the normal setup, or the stock setup, I'll turn this out, like that, is normally your brake line comes from the chassis into your rubber hose through your little bracket here, and it normally mounts up to the top, where I've actually flipped it down to the bottom. Just gives you more clearance. So what ends up happening is that little guy gets rotated from up here. So now what we have, I'll just rotate that back the other way, you've got your bleed nipple now is up the top. So being that they work either way, you just get more clearance with your let's move this back with your brake line. So obviously this is in a full droop position because it's off the ground, so you are going to get more clearance with that hose. That's not going to be as tight looking as it is there because it looks a bit scary, but anyway, that'll work fine. Now what I was talking about earlier about the shims, here is one of the pins, and there's one of the little shims on there. So the idea of those, there's a little chart, and there's some pretty good videos on there. I think Wide 5 just did a great one actually. It was quite funny setting up your shim, so you can check that one out on there. But yeah, obviously putting the right amount of shims on either side of the pin is pretty important just for wear. It doesn't actually do anything with camber, so I was wrong there. I thought it might have actually slightly moved top or bottom, but it's more about just getting your pins so they don't wear and you don't screw up your needle bearings inside. So make sure you have the right amount of shims either side of the pin. I think I had like a 5mm gap either side, which I think 5.5 was 6 and 3, so that's what I've got. I've got 6 shims on the outside here and 3 on the inside. Obviously make sure you grease them up really well too before you put them in, and obviously use your grease nipples too once they're in, and pump all that full. I've still got to get these little rubber boots that go over the bump stop here. Haven't got those yet for this one. And I think also this guy needs, not sure, well yeah, tie rod arms are next. There's one on the ground right there. So what happens with the tie rods, because a few people have asked me, what you have to do, obviously you got to ream out your control arms. Don't you know what you call that bit there, but anyway, you've got to ream that out so your tie rod actually goes in, and you've got to use, this one here is off a bay window, so it actually has a thicker shaft here. This is what I was talking about earlier. So that shaft there, I think it's like 17mm or something. I think you actually drill a 17mm hole first and then ream it to suit the cone shape. On the other side is just your stock splitty one, which goes in. And the idea is you don't want to mount them this way, which would be the stock. That would be the stock way, because then you're just too close to the chassis here. So you're going to bang on that. So that's what the idea is you bring it in from underneath, gives you more clearance. Obviously that's got to go in underneath on that one. So that's next, we'll get that installed. But that's pretty much it for the installation of actual spindle onto the arms. Obviously you've got to do up all these bolts. This guy here, you rotate that until it actually clamps itself together because of that little concentric groove in the pin, which is right, where are we? There it is. There you can see as you rotate that, it just sort of pulls in on itself as you're cranking on this bit here. So that's important to get that all nice and tight. And yeah, I think everything else, there's some split pins that I do need to put to. Some of them have them, some of them don't. This is an early splitty, so it's got little holes through the bolt here, so you can put your split pins through it just for extra safety. Yeah, so that's about it for this one. So that's the flippage done. We'll pop this back down on the ground, and you'll be able to see the upgraded height or drop, I suppose, 3.5 inches, and it just means we get rid of that positive camber on the rear end, which is going to be cool. Awesome, guys. Well, I've got some more videos coming up. The next one is going to be, and I'll show you actually, because it's doing my head in, and let's come around here. Oh, a few people have asked me what this thing is. That is a powder coating oven that I built, and I still haven't quite got it running yet, but it's a giant one. I want to start doing beams and all kinds of business inside it. So it's about, I don't know, 7, 8 feet tall, something like that. It's got a little window in it. Next thing on the splitty I want to do here is, I'm just going to blank off this guy here because I don't like, it's got a shitty shape to it. That's kind of how I got it, and it doesn't need to be clearanced on that. So I'm just going to add in a piece of metal in here and just make that straight across, because I think it'll look a lot neater than that. That looks kind of pretty dodgy, don't like it. So that'll be the next video, yeah, showing you how to do that. So here she is back on the ground, and you can see how much that's dropped the front, and we're nice and level now, and you can also see the back. We have pretty much neutral camber, and I think once the seats go in, that'll probably push it into a slight bit of negative, I reckon. But anyway, that's pretty good where it is right there, and you can see there's still heaps of clearance underneath. So you know, we're not getting super low. So I think it's a good height to be. Yeah, you can have a look from the back. Once I pop it over here. And I should have had a photo from before, but you can see there with that back wheel, she's pretty much straight up and down, and yeah, good times. So as I said before, next I'm just going to fix that rear valance and just blank in that chop out for the exhaust there, because it doesn't really need to be there, and it looks a bit silly. The rest of the progress with this thing is needs, the roof's actually ready to paint. I've just got the sides to rub back in 240, 360 and 600, and then they'll be ready to go. A few people have asked me the colour of it. It's pretty much going to stay the original colour, which is a kind of like a red. It's almost like a browny red. Not the best of colour, but we're going to keep it all original. Yeah, so hopefully we get some warmer weather, because it's pretty bloody cold today. It's about 10 degrees Celsius, so she's pretty cold. We're coming into winter here in Australia, and yeah, so I want to try to get it painted pretty quickly. Then of course I've got all the seats. This is a micro bus, so it actually has the full set of seats inside it, and you can see we've got the hump. Being a 61, it's got the front hump bench seat up the top there, and we've got a couple of frames there, and then there's actually the middle seat down there that's ready to be upholstered. So we'll send that off to Dave up at Vogs Trim. He does an insane job, and he's done a few of my splitties now. This one's going off to Trigger Brothers actually, so that's a surf shop here in Victoria, and that's going to be their little flagship that they'll cruise around in. We'll probably get some sign writing done on the side of it as well. So yeah, she's been a a pretty good project. I got it when it was fairly rough. It was pretty much, good to be a rat rod, but client wanted it nice and shiny, so we had to do quite a lot of body work with it. Replace the whole front nose. Door skins, front door skins had to be replaced. There's actually one of the old ones down there. She's got the 1600 twin port motor in it, and that's actually running quite good, so we don't have to do any mods to that. Probably the other thing I'll do is I might pull the engine out just to spray the engine bay, because it's been sprayed, but it's not the best, so probably go back over that. I've just got a plastic thing over at the moment. Yeah, it's got the vintage speed exhaust on it, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so it should be a pretty good project to get it finished off. I've got a few more coming after this, so I've got to get cracking with too. So we'll just see what happens after that. But yeah, got the upholstery to do, the hood lining or head lining, and all the door cards. The sidewalls, all that stuff. I've pretty much got all the parts for it. I've still got to chase down some hubcaps for it, some just original hubcaps. Yeah, so we'll keep going with the progress. Hopefully I'll try and get the roof sprayed fairly quickly. We've still got some warmish weather coming before it gets in a full-blown winter. So yeah, we'll go from there, and yeah, good times. All right, cheers for dropping in.